There's no pain quite like betrayal delivered by the people you trusted most. It's not loud. It doesn't explode in a moment. It seeps in slow and cruel, like a gas leak you don't notice until it's too late. I came home from work early that day. No dramatic reason. Just wanted to surprise my wife, Lena, with coffee and a plan to take the afternoon off. We hadn't done that in months. Things had been off between us, but I figured it was the stress. We were both working long hours, barely seeing each other. The front door was unlocked. That should have been my first clue. Her purse was in the hallway. So were his shoes. It took less than 30 seconds to piece it together. Voices. Movement. Then silence. I didn't scream. I didn't kick the door in. I just stood there. In my own living room. Listening to whispers I couldn't unhear. It was Marcus. My best friend. My brother in every way but blood. They scrambled, of course. Lena wrapped in a blanket, face pale. Marcus with that guilty half-smile he always gave when he knew he'd screwed up but hoped you'd still forgive him. He started to talk. I walked out before he could finish. In the end, they didn't fight for me. They didn't deny it. They didn't even apologize properly. Just moved on. 3 months later, they moved in together. She filed for divorce. He ghosted me. The two people I trusted with my life turned me into a footnote in theirs. The settlement took what little I had left. Our joint accounts? Emptied. My credit? Wrecked. She got the car. He got my tools, literally. I ended up sleeping on a friend's couch, jobless, broke, and chewing through the last thread of my self-respect. And the worst part? I'd let Marcus in during my darkest years. He'd helped me after my father died. Stayed with me during my panic attacks. Told me he'd never let me fall apart. Now he was sleeping in my bed. Wearing my t-shirts. Living my life. That's when something in me snapped, not in the way people think, not with rage or violence, but with clarity. I didn't want to scream, or punch a wall, or make a scene. I wanted to watch them crumble. Slowly. Silently. From the inside out. They thought I'd disappear. That I'd drown quietly in the mess they left behind. They were wrong. I had nothing left to lose. And when a man has nothing, he becomes dangerous. They reset my life without asking. So I was going to return the favor. But on my terms. My timeline. And when I reset the clock, they wouldn't even hear it ticking. Before they shattered my life, Marcus was the one person I thought would never betray me. We met in college, bonded over late-night coding marathons and beer-fueled existential rants. He was the charismatic one, always had the right words, the right smile. Me? I was quieter. The fixer. The planner. The one who kept things moving while he chased girls and made people laugh. We stayed close after graduation. Started working in the same tech circle. When Lena and I got married, Marcus stood beside me as my best man. He gave a speech about loyalty and brotherhood that made half the room cry. Looking back, I wonder if he was already sleeping with her then. The worst part isn't just what they did, it's when they did it. 2 years ago, I fell apart. I lost my job in a brutal downsizing and spiraled into a depression that swallowed me whole. I stopped sleeping. Stopped showering. Started drinking just enough to blur the edges. I remember lying on the couch for days, blinds closed, phone off, wishing I could disappear. Marcus was the one who pulled me out. He brought groceries. Sat with me through the long silences. Got me to a therapist. Even paid for sessions when I couldn't. He told me, "You're not broken. You're just rebooting." He saved me. And then, the moment I got stable again, Lena grew distant. Colder. Her eyes wandered. Her phone was always face down. The sex stopped. The affection drained. I blamed myself at first. Maybe I'd scared her off. Maybe I wasn't enough. The irony? I was right. But not in the way I thought. By the time I found out, it wasn't just an affair. It was a relocation. They'd been planning it. Slowly. Calculatingly. They didn't want a confrontation. They wanted a clean exit. Lena filed for divorce citing irreconcilable differences, but it was more like a handover. One man out. Another in. Swap the husband, keep the apartment. They even kept the dog. I hit bottom faster than I ever thought possible. I sold my watch to eat. Slept in a friend's storage room. My resume went unanswered for months. People who once nodded to me in lobbies looked away now. They stole everything and they smiled while doing it. But pain is a remarkable teacher. It sharpens you. Makes you cold. Focused. Clear. And one cold night, lying on a mattress in a borrowed garage, staring at the glow of my laptop screen, I made a decision. If Marcus could turn my pain into his comfort, then I could turn his comfort into chaos. Not with fists, with silence, with signals, with code. I was going to make them feel hunted. Not today, not all at once, but soon. And when the pieces began to move, they'd never know where the game had started. The world had turned its back on me. That's what betrayal does. It stains you in a way that makes people uncomfortable. They don't want to hear about your broken heart, your stolen life, your ruined credit. They nod, say, "Man, that's rough," and then go back to scrolling. No one sticks around to hear how deep the cracks go. But cracks can be useful. They let the light in. Or in my case, they let the dark out. I remember the exact moment I decided this wasn't just going to be about getting even. This was going to be an ending. I was at a local library living off free Wi-Fi and coffee I couldn't afford. I'd just gotten a call from a job I was sure I had, the third rejection that week. Meanwhile, I made the mistake of checking Lena's social feed. There she was, laughing in a sunlit kitchen I once helped renovate, kissing Marcus like they hadn't gutted someone to get there. The caption? Fresh starts and soulmates. That's when the cold clicked in. I didn't rage. I smiled. Because I realized they thought the story was over. That they had won. That I would fade into some sad statistic, divorced, broke, forgotten. But I was still here, and I had a particular set of skills. Before everything fell apart, I'd spent a decade in IT security. I knew networks, encryption, data. I'd cleaned up identity thefts for high-end clients, traced corporate breaches back to their sources. I understood digital footprints better than most law enforcement officers. They taught me everything I needed. Now I was going to apply it. Not all at once. I didn't want them to notice. I wanted fear to creep in slowly like a fog. I created new identities. VPNs through countries I'd never visit. Spoofed MAC addresses. Disposable email chains. I built a wall of digital misdirection so thick that by the time anyone traced anything, the smoke would already be gone. Then I started watching. Their emails. Their security cams. Their doorbell logs. Marcus was still sloppy with passwords, same ones he used back in college. Lena had better habits, but her laptop synced to a cloud she didn't know how to lock down. I watched their messages, their shopping habits, their schedules. I knew when they argued, when they ordered sushi, when they booked a weekend getaway. They lived like no one was watching. But I was. And I was patient. Because revenge isn't a sprint. It's a system. And once I had full access, I started writing the script. A play with no curtain call where the villains slowly become prisoners of their own paranoia. And the ghost in the machine? He never leaves fingerprints. Only shadows. They never saw me coming. Marcus and Lena thought they'd erased me from their lives, but I was already in the walls. I had access to everything: emails, texts, shared calendars, online purchases. Their whole world was stored in clouds they never bothered to secure. I didn't act right away. That's what amateurs do, lash out in big, messy bursts. I wanted erosion, not explosion. First, I impersonated a collections agency. Using burner phone numbers and a spoofed company name, I started calling Marcus twice a week. Always just before an important Zoom call or right as he got home from work. I left voicemails that sounded urgent but vague. "We're following up on an open balance from a previous account. Please call back immediately regarding case 428B. He ignored the first few. Then the paranoia kicked in. Next, I targeted Lena's email. I didn't just read it, I started rerouting certain messages. Password resets. Billing alerts. Account security notices. I'd intercept them, alter the timing, then let them trickle back in hours or days later. She thought her inbox was glitching. She reset her password 3 times. Didn't help, because I had a keystroke logger on her machine now. Every time she typed, I was watching. I posed as a tax advisor and emailed them both from a forged email domain that looked identical to their CPAs. Told them the IRS had flagged a discrepancy. Attached a bogus notice. They panicked. Called the real CPA. He denied it. They started to think someone had stolen their info. They were right. They just didn't know who. The tension began to show. In their messages. In Lena's increasingly frantic search history. Signs of digital harassment. How to detect if your phone is being tracked. Can you sue for emotional damage from online stalking? I smiled when I read that one. But I wasn't done. I manipulated Marcus's Spotify playlist. Logged into his account, added strange tracks to his favorites, creepy ambient stuff with names like "I See You Sleep" and "You'll Never Be Alone Again." He posted about it, thinking he'd been hacked. He had. And I left it like that, no damage, just disturbance. Death by 1,000 digital cuts. Then I altered their Amazon orders. Rerouted a few to the wrong address. Cancelled one and blamed their bank. I even swapped out a package of bedsheets for a pack of black latex gloves and a fake knife. No note. Just the silence of implication. The point wasn't to hurt them financially yet. It was to make them doubt the world around them. Each other. Their security. Their sanity. They thought they'd started a new life. But I'd infected every line of it. And as the glitches piled up, the fear began to grow. The game was finally in motion. And I was only getting started. Chaos is best delivered in whispers. The groundwork was set. They were unnerved, looking over their shoulders, changing passwords, blaming customer service, and some weird online scammer. But they still felt like they had control. I was about to take that illusion away. Identity theft isn't like the movies. It's not about buying sports cars and draining bank accounts overnight. It's about slow, targeted damage, unraveling the fabric of trust in systems they never thought twice about. First, I cloned Lena's identity. With everything I'd collected, her address history, social security number, birth date, employment details, I applied for 3 high-interest credit cards. All under her maiden name, using a P.O. box I'd rented across the state under yet another fake identity. They were approved instantly. I let one run up $3,000 in charges across adult websites and cryptocurrency exchanges. Then I filed a stolen card report from a third identity, triggering fraud alerts across her actual credit profile. She didn't even know she had those cards. Until her bank flagged her credit score plummeting. I moved on to Marcus. He was cockier with his data. Still used a vanity domain for personal emails, one he never updated his security on. I rerouted his 2-factor authentication through a clone SIM, got into his Apple ID, and from there, every connected app he had. I ordered Uber rides across the country. Signed him up for men seeking men dating platforms, some pretty niche just for fun. Sent flower deliveries to his office with cards that read, "You left a mark on me, Marcus." So I returned the favor. Then I filed a loan application in his name for a motorcycle. Used a burner number. When the loan officer called for verification, I answered in his voice, deep, rushed, dismissive. The loan was flagged. A fraud report followed. Suddenly, Marcus's accounts were frozen pending investigation. He was locked out of his own credit card. His PayPal account flagged. 2 packages from overseas were held in customs under suspicion of illegal imports. He posted a frustrated tweet, "Is someone trying to destroy my life? Seriously, WTF is happening?" He had no idea. Not yet. The best part? I made sure it all looked random. A string of bad luck. A stalker, maybe? A data breach. Anything but someone with a personal grudge and a blueprint. I wasn't stealing their money. I was stealing their certainty. Every click, every ding of a new email, every declined transaction became a question mark. And question marks become fear. Their phones started ringing with fake calls from debt collectors I generated through a voice AI. Their social security numbers were now flagged in systems that took months to untangle. They were unraveling, but still holding on. Barely. Next, I'd start turning them against each other. Because digital chaos was only phase 1. Now it was time to make them question reality itself. By now, they were fraying at the edges. But fear alone wasn't enough. I didn't just want them to feel harassed, I wanted them to feel hunted. The kind of hunted that makes your skin crawl even in silence. That's when I started manipulating their world from within. Their smart home system, doorbell cam, thermostat, lights, even their coffee maker was all managed through a single platform. One Marcus had set up, predictably with the same weak admin password he used back in college, Starlord87. Once I had access, I started slow. A light would turn on in the middle of the night. The TV would change channels by itself. The thermostat would spike to 90 degrees during dinner. Then plummet to 50 while they slept. The doorbell rang at random hours, 2 a.m., 3:12, 4:47, but no one was there. Not even a shadow. Sometimes I made the cameras stop recording for exactly 2 minutes at a time, always when they heard something outside. They called the company. The company found no issues. Then I upped the ante. I created fake social profiles, someone who looked vaguely familiar but not traceable. The kind of profile that feels like a forgotten high school classmate or a random bar acquaintance. This person began liking Lena's photos, commenting cryptic emojis, sending her DMs like, "You never really got away." She blocked the account. I made 3 more. One of them messaged Marcus, "She still thinks about him, you know?" No name. Just implication. Then I printed photos, real ones, taken from their own cloud storage. I had everything: vacation shots, mirror selfies, intimate moments. I edited them, blurred the edges, and sent copies to their apartment from different postmarks. No return address. No notes. Just photos that should have never left their hard drives. Lena started sleeping with the lights on. Marcus began installing extra locks. They reset their passwords every other day, hired a private cybersecurity firm, even went to the police. The report went nowhere. The officer barely wrote anything down. "There's no direct threat," he told them. "Could just be a phishing scam." They felt exposed. Helpless. Alone. I fed the fear. Sent Lena an email from a masked address: "He doesn't sleep. Neither should you." Sent Marcus one the next day: "You shouldn't have taken what wasn't yours." No signature. No trace. But they knew. Deep down, they knew it wasn't random. And that knowledge, the creeping suspicion that someone was watching, that someone knew them better than they knew themselves, began to crack the illusion of their safety. I didn't want them to run. Not yet. I wanted them to look over their shoulders. To distrust each other. To lie awake wondering who would be next. And when that silence got too loud, that's when I'd take it even further. That's when I'd make them disappear themselves. They stopped pretending it was all coincidence. I watched it happen in real time, through security cams, through messages, through the growing silence in their digital life. They stopped posting. Stopped smiling. The once slick selfies and cozy couple pics vanished from Lena's feed. Marcus deleted his accounts altogether. Because fear had set in. Not just worry. Not annoyance. Real fear. The kind that makes you jump at every creak in the floorboards. The kind that twists your stomach every time the lights flicker. I made sure they had reasons to be afraid. One night, I triggered their door sensors to chime at exactly 3:33 a.m., the front door, then the back, then the garage. The cameras, of course, captured nothing. But the alert logs showed the breach. Marcus got up, panicked, armed with a baseball bat. Searched the entire place. Nothing. I watched him from his own hallway cam. The next morning, Lena found a single rose on the hood of her car. I hadn't left it. But they didn't know that. Fear has momentum. You don't need to constantly feed it once it gets rolling. You just nudge it and it tumbles down the hill, dragging everything with it. They began accusing each other. I saw the texts. "Lena, are you hiding something from me?" "Marcus, you think I'm doing this?" "Seriously." "Lena, you said you wiped your phone, but I saw that message. The one from the old number." "Marcus, that wasn't me." "I swear to God." "Lena, I don't know what to believe anymore." "Good. That's exactly where I wanted them." I planted an old photo of me and Lena, one I knew she'd forgotten about, in their mailbox. Just loose. Unmarked. A little worn around the edges. Us at a beach smiling. Her hand in mine. She burned it. Then she cried. Marcus started sleeping on the couch. Lena stopped going into work. They tried to get ahead of it. Filed another police report. Talked about hiring private security. But paranoia turns logic into mud. Every solution felt too late. Every noise felt like me. Because I was everywhere. And nowhere. They were spiraling, emotionally and mentally, clinging to each other while quietly blaming one another for what was happening. Exactly the dynamic I wanted. Break the trust. Foster the doubt. Feed the guilt. And just as they hit peak vulnerability, when it felt like someone was in every shadow, I sent the final push. A burner phone shipped to their apartment, preloaded with a single message typed out in the Notes app. "There's no safe place. Just leave. Leave everything. Start over. Or I'll finish this." That night, they didn't sleep. The next morning, they started packing. No police call. No more confrontations. Just flight. The rats were abandoning their stolen ship. And I was the tide rising to wash it all away. They left in a rush, no goodbye posts, no explanations. Just vanished like smoke. I tracked the signs in the silence. Their apartment went dark, no power usage, no devices pinging. The security cams? Disconnected. Their cell service canceled, social media deactivated, forwarding address left blank. Only a digital void remained where their lives used to be. They had run. Exactly as I intended. Marcus made one last withdrawal from a joint account he'd opened with Lena a month earlier. Almost all of their savings moved to a private international bank in Zurich. The kind of account you open when you're afraid the government might be watching. Or someone worse. They changed their names, I later discovered. Lena became Claire and Marcus Evan. New identities, new passports, new social records obtained through shady channels. He must have paid someone a fortune to make it clean. Good. It meant they were spending fast and terrified. I tracked them to a country with no extradition treaties and loose ID enforcement. A place where rich people go to hide from consequences. A place where no one asks questions if you pay enough. They rented a small villa under their new names. No house staff. No luxury. Just distance. They lived in fear. Marcus bought blackout curtains for every room. Installed an overpriced alarm system. Lena started carrying pepper spray even inside the house. Every time someone passed their front gate, their porch light flicked on. The irony? I never touched them again after they left. I didn't need to, because fear did all the work for me now. They were prisoners in their own lives, watching every shadow, questioning every noise. Living with the constant weight of the unknown. Wondering who I was. Where I was. What I'd do next. And the best part? They'd never get an answer. I wasn't after closure. I wasn't after confrontation. I was after permanence. They wouldn't get justice. They wouldn't even get to call me the villain. Because they didn't know who I was anymore. To them, I was the past incarnate. The echo of everything they tried to bury. Meanwhile, I reset everything they thought they controlled. And while they hid in some overpriced tropical bunker, scared of every knock at the door, I came home. Not to our old place. I didn't want that. But I found my own space. Clean. Quiet. Mine. I had my name again. My identity. My freedom. I started writing a novel loosely inspired by a man whose life was stolen and how he took it back without ever lifting a weapon. A story of silence. A story of patience. A story of justice disguised as paranoia. Publishers are already interested. And as I typed the final chapter, I smiled. Because the ending had already been written. And it was perfect. With Marcus and Lena gone, the dust settled quickly. The apartment they abandoned was cleaned out, rented to a new family within weeks. Their digital footprints faded like footprints in sand, but I held onto mine like a talisman. I reclaimed what was mine, my name, my credit, my life. It wasn't easy. Clearing debts took months. Disputing fraudulent charges, repairing ruined credit scores, resetting utility accounts and bank information, it was like piecing together a shattered mirror, one shard at a time. But I was relentless. By the time I finished, I felt stronger than I had in years. I found a modest apartment on the outskirts of the city. No fancy furniture, no designer labels. Just peace. And a laptop. I poured everything into my novel, weaving the pain and betrayal into something raw and real. It wasn't just a story, it was therapy. A reckoning. Publishers noticed. Agents asked for more chapters. Editors offered contracts. The book, titled Reset the Clock, became a minor sensation, a memoir disguised as fiction, a tale of quiet revenge and the power of patience. Readers wrote to me, sharing their own stories of betrayal and survival. For the first time, my voice mattered. I never revealed the truth behind the names. Marcus and Lena became shadows in the narrative, ghosts the reader could project their own demons onto. The novel gave me something no lawsuit or public confrontation ever could: closure. I moved on with my life. Not by forgetting, but by reclaiming. I built new routines. New friendships. Found work tutoring kids struggling to read, helping people rebuild after their own falls. And most importantly, I lived without fear. Meanwhile, back in their exile, Marcus and Lena lived with a constant weight. They knew the past never truly lets go. They just hoped it wouldn't find them. But I did. And I walked away free. Years have passed since Marcus and Lena fled, hiding behind new names in foreign lands. Their lavish villa remains untouched, a fortress of fear rather than luxury. Rumors persist that they live in constant dread, checking locks, changing routines, haunted by the unseen force that shattered their lives. Meanwhile, I've rebuilt mine from the ground up. The novel did more than heal, it freed me. I signed book deals, gave talks, met readers who found hope in the story of quiet strength and relentless resolve. I found peace in anonymity, comfort in the everyday moments I once took for granted. A morning walk, a genuine conversation, a home that was truly mine. I never sought their forgiveness. Nor did I want their pity. This was never about mercy. It was about balance. They reset my life without consent. I reset theirs with purpose. And in the end, as I watch from a distance, the greatest victory is knowing they live in fear while I live in peace. The clock has been reset, and this time I control the time. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, hit subscribe and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what you want to see next. See you in the next one.